Show's about to start soon, everyone. So nice countdown. Today's topic is: can black love help black people achieve betterment? Excellent. So let's get ready for that while I set up the situation. All right, let me just get set up. Almost time. Watch that time tick down. Voila. Ta-da. Stop sharing. Now let's go to let's share our screen. Hello everyone, welcome to the Black Betterment broadcast. Just gonna now share my see if I can find the document. There we go. Voila. Let's go back to begin. Here we go. So yeah, what do we see? Show 4. All right. Now we've got a fantastic guest today, but before I introduce our fantastic guest on today's show, I'm just go through what it's about. So today is the 4th show. Wait, all right. And the reason we have Black Betterment is because after much research, I've unfortunately concluded that currently black people are collectively inadequate. And this is a very strong statement. And I start all shows by this because I believe that by identifying the challenge, we can work towards a solution. And this is a challenge I wish many people to come on and challenge me on if they do not agree with the quotation. But as you know, collectively, a group of people seen as a whole, context, a group of people united in achieving goals, all right, and inadequate, lacking the quality to deal with life and insufficient for a purpose, insignificant, for a purpose, and context, a lack of interest or mismanagement, practicing dedicated work to significantly and consistently better the conditions of black people. Boom. Right. So whenever we interact, we want to try to uphold the 4D values, which are discipline, dedication, discernment, and dignity. So hopefully, as we are talking on the show, this is something we shall do. And hopefully throughout when we practice the lifestyle of Black Betterment. And today's topic is: can black love help black people achieve betterment? And we're very fortunate to have Sister Betty as a guest. Now, Sister Betty, can you hear me? You might be muted, I'm not too sure.
Hi.
Oh, look at that. Sister Betty. Now, just so you know, Sister Betty contacted me a few weeks back saying she was interested in doing a topic or a show about black love. And I said, when the show is sorted, she'll be the first I contact. So I kept my word, and that's why we're here. So just so everyone knows, there's going to be another sister join today, but unfortunately she couldn't make it, so we might push it to next week. Who was that sister? What was her name again, Betty?
Her name's Jarena Starr.
Jarena Starr, yes. And I believe she has her own YouTube channel, which we will promote today as well, even though she's not here. And don't forget to also promote your particular, all your details as well, Sister Betty. But the format of today's show, the format of every show, basically is we're going to have 2 guests or a guest, and the idea is that guest will bring up a topic to do with a challenge in the community and something that we're going to work towards solutions and something that needs to be addressed in the quest for Black Betterment. So today, Betty is a star guest today. So today she's picking a topic, and the topic that she's pushed forward is: can black love help black people achieve Black Betterment? And she's going to express it in her way, and we're going to have a back and forth dialogue. And people who are live and stuff, they can at any time give messages, and hopefully I'll post a link so they can join if they want as well. So that's all then. So there we go. Sister Betty, you have the microphone. You can start the talk, and then I'll just jump in back and forth, and hopefully we can get a nice discussion going.
Okay. Thank you, Raven, for inviting me. And big up to the people watching. And I'm really happy that you've started your own live streams. You're an intelligent brother. I know always supported me. So can I commend you, and I thank you for allowing me to come on your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to talk about black love because I feel like there's like a propaganda war against black love and black people coming together and procreating and doing as our forebears have done before. I'm very much like obviously the propaganda right now is that if you just go and get yourself I know as a black woman, if you go and get yourself a white man, and then you just mix, racism is going to be out of business, and Kumbayaism, and we'll create the Rainbow Coalition and United Nations, and we'll get to world peace. But I don't think that is true. And I know the black people I know that have black relationships. There's quite a few black people I know that are afraid to even say that they believe in being with black people and want their children to be black and want to procreate and marry black. And I think that's quite worrying. And when I've heard white and Asian people feel quite comfortable, when they've asked me myself and said, well, my stance is that you don't procreate with the oppressor. You can't fight white supremacy as well as procreate with the oppressor at the same time, because it's a conflict of interest. And that's how I was raised. My mother raised me and my sister, that you cannot fight white supremacy and procreate with them at the same time, and you don't do it. Yeah. And me and my sister both have black partners, and we've not done it. And when I was younger, I didn't really understand. I thought, oh, mum's a bit racist. Mum and dad are a bit racist. It was only as I got older do I understand what my mum meant. And when I've growing up as a child, I had one or two mixed race friends, and it was always these like mixed race kids that the father's not about, the black father's nowhere to be seen, the white mother. And some of these white mothers were racist too. And the self-hate that some of these mixed race kids had in their blackness was just really detrimental to me. And I just think that's another reason why I don't believe in black and white unions. But I feel like nowadays, like, black people are always accused of being racist. The minute you say that you don't want white people in your family, and no, I don't want a white person, and all suddenly black people get accused of being racist. But the thing is, like, for me, it's like, how does a white person build self-esteem in black people when they're not our people? Do you know what I mean? White people only appeared in Africa. I know in my ethnic group, we only saw them in the last 200 years. I'm not mixed, I'm just black African. And they say black African civilizations go back 3 million years. So we don't owe it the white man anything. And I feel like there's an arrogance in some of the white people I've met in life or online, that the idea that the minute you tell them that, no, I don't want no white folk in the family, I'm not going to procreate with you, it's an arrogance. They are white people and brown black people who promote the idea that you as a black person should procreate and date a white person to make the white people feel, so they don't feel guilty, so they can pretend that racism, white supremacy is not damaging to black people. That's what it's about. It's about their ego and them not wanting to acknowledge white privilege that they have. So it's just an ego thing, and they're using black people. And I'm like, I don't need to do that. I mean, like, when you look at, if you just, like, for me as well, if you look at, because I don't believe that all white people are racist, but even if all white people are not racist, the ones that are not racist, it doesn't matter, because they don't stop the ones that are racist. If you look at what France did in Mali in 2015, they dropped a bomb on Mali, one of the most poorest countries in the world. That country has never attacked France, but they dropped a bomb on Mali in the desert of Mali and said that, oh, it's jihadis and Islamists. Which are Libya. The same thing, France and Britain and America, with the help of their cohorts, Qatar, dropped a bomb on Libya, one of the most developed countries in Africa. So this idea that black people should procreate with their oppressor, what for? If they really believe, if white people collectively really believe that black people are equal, you wouldn't drop bombs on black countries. You wouldn't be bombing Africa. So for me, that's why I believe that black people and some of the civilizations that are created by black people, whether you're talking about ancient Kemet, whether you're talking about the Benin Empire, whether you're talking about Timbuktu, whatever, Mali, the Ghana Empire, these white people are nowhere to be seen. These are black empires, yeah? They didn't need the help of white people to build them. So it's just like, so why should, so if that was built on black love, yeah, if you know, then look at what it was created, and some of the empires in Africa, um, they were nothing to do with Islam or Christianity. They predate those religions, yeah, or just weren't about. They were created on African, like for example, the Benin Empire that was created on traditional indigenous Benin religion. The Ashanti Empire, the same thing.
Mm.
So these were created by a black man and a black woman.
Mm.
So certainly black love helps the betterment of black people, because look at all the civilizations and empires that have been created.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, you are dropping the info there. Um, when you're speaking, I think the first thing you mentioned was black people scared to say, scared to mention black love. Like it's an issue for a black person to openly admit that they love black women or black women love black men, and this is something that you've observed. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, I have. Even from people who claim to be like I wouldn't consider myself pro-black. I would just consider myself pro-humanity, but I've got special interest in blackness because I'm black.
Right.
But some of the people that claim that they're pro-black, they're scared to say it. They always have to say something like, "Well, I've got some mixed race people in my family. Even though I believe in black love, that doesn't mean it's that hating on other people." And I'm like, "Come on, man! Why should, because my thing is, why should black people be afraid to talk about the very thing that created them? Because my mum and dad are black,
Mm.
their forefathers were black. So why should people feel comfortable to hate on the very thing that created me? And why should I be ashamed to big up my black ancestors? I'm black because they're black. And that's what I'm hearing a lot of black people like that claim to be pro-black or for black love. They want to say it behind their breath.
Mm. Why do you think that is, Sister Bay? Why do you think so many black people might feel slightly intimidated to articulate that they have a invested interest in loving black people? Why do you think that is?
I think because we are in a white society, aren't we? We are in a white society. We don't live in, like if you're in a black country, you're raised and born in a black country, I don't think
Mm.
you're going to have a problem with saying that. But we are in a white nation. We're in Europe, the belly of the beast. So there are economic consequences. If you're not seen as a black person to be, you know, for the Rainbow Coalition and integration, there are serious economic consequences. These, because white people, when you meet these racist white people, they will discriminate against you, and the so-called good ones will just let you be a sacrificial lamb. That's my experience. So that's why I feel like black people are worried, and also black people get attacked. I've in the past, I've been harassed by racist white people when I used to live in a certain place. They are
Mm.
real life consequences.
So if you're someone listening at the moment
Mm.
and you're trying to highlight pros and cons, what would you say the pro is of a black woman marrying a black man? In say in England today, what is the pros of this union?
Like I, my partner's from Eritrea, um, and it is just nice to have a black man because he understands me. We come from similar backgrounds. We're both African. You're not going to get that with a non-black person.
Right.
There are certain things that he understands that no matter how nice um, some of my white or Asian friends are, they would never understand because we're from the same. Me and my partner are from the same continent. We
Mm.
have the same, Black African genetics. There are things that we understand that you can't get that with a non-black person. And also for me, I feel one of the nicest things is because my partner's from East Africa and I'm
Mm.
from the West, I get to hear about another side of African culture that I wouldn't have known about.
Right.
And
Mm.
that's what I would say also, because he was around where in Libya when Britain and France were bombing Libya.
Mm.
So he's taught me of the negative effects of, white supremacy and what they will do.
Right. So you've
You couldn't get that. I couldn't get that from a white person, or you know what I mean, an Asian.
experience. So you're talking about like empathy and sympathy, right? Sympathy is something that people feel, but it's something that people can like say like, oh, I feel sorry for your situation. But empathy is like it's a lived experience, right? You're
Yeah.
with someone who's living your experience with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, and also I think also for me, because I can only talk for myself personally. But my dad was Nigerian, my mum and dad are both Nigerian, but my dad wasn't a good father and a good husband, and he was quite a negative. He wasn't a good example of what a good black man can do and a good African man could do. So for me, it's nice that now I have a partner that's a black man who's an African, and he's shown me the softer side of what black African men are, that they're not all barbarians and
Right.
misogynist, and you know what I mean.
So what? Just to play, the advocate here. What if someone said, "Oh, if your choices was, a bad quote unquote black man and a good quote unquote non-black man, what would you say?"
No, because at the end of the day, this whether the person is whether you have a bad black man and a good white man, the fact of the matter is the good white people do not stop white supremacy. And if you get into a relationship with a white person, yeah, you're going to have conflict of interest. You're going to have Stockholm syndrome. How are you going to fight white supremacy at the same time as procreating being with them? That white person is going to tell you, I'm not a racist white person. I don't believe in it. But that is part of his culture. Whether he likes it or not, that is part of his culture. Because if all white people agreed with the sentiment that white supremacy was wrong, it wouldn't exist. There's a collective responsibility black people and white people have to take. Yeah. So all this romanticism, for me, it doesn't make sense, because I value how I look. I don't want my children to be white. I like being black. I like having curly hair. I like having brown skin. What is it that white people are going to offer me that a black African man can't? They're going around terrorizing. Let's be honest. Let's say the dominant society, the last 500 years, they've managed to enslave the majority of the world, smash civilizations. They made the Tasmanian black people extinct. Why should when I go outside, Raven, like I live in Northern England, I go outside, I've had to deal with racism in college when I'm studying, because I'm studying to be a nail tech. When I made a complaint, the so-called good white people, even though they saw what was happening, they just didn't back me up. And the actual college were useless. So why should I then go? Do you honestly think that I'm going to go outside and put up with that racism when I step outside the house, and then come home to put up and see a white person in my home and not feel angry about the injustice of it? I'm not even on that.
Right.
All the people I know, when in childhood and as older, I know I used to have a black history teacher when I was younger, and as much as he was a good man, Raven, he had a white wife and mixed race children. Eventually, their marriage broke up. But the conflict, people did not respect him. How can you teach to be proud to be black, to love yourself as a black person, if you're not procreating and you're not with them? How are you going to do? And you're actually with your oppressor. It's not even like you've got an Asian. You've actually gone to go and get the oppressor. How do you separate a white partner from white supremacy and the dominant white society? I don't understand how people do that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because there's a lot of philosophies out there of to deal with this situation, and I think one philosophy was that if you live in a world of in a white supremacist world, you view the world as like a prison, and the white supremacists and Europeans in general within the power structure can be seen as the authority, i.e., the police, right? The prison guards, while the non-white people, the black people, can be seen as the people who are actually in the jail. So until you have a sense of freedom, any interaction between the two that of a romance level or a
Mm,
romantic or procreation level could be seen as abuse of power.
yeah,
And some people view it that way, and they're very strong on those views. And, and there's other views who talk about when you actually with another black person, your first partner in business is your wife or husband,
yes,
and they stay at the head of that kind of corporation, and then they're part of the community business. So if you then marry a non-black person, essentially you're given authority and power over your home economics and home your outward business structure to a non-black person. So their area of interest might not be to serve the community. Their area
yeah,
of interest might be to take that small wealth and pull it into another community. Therefore, meaning you find that you're not really circulating the wealth in your community, and you're not really getting that kind of structure going. There is that argument as well.
yeah. And another thing that I don't like about the whole thing is it's just when they promote interracial relationships between black and white people, it's just a covert way of knocking black men. I'm sick to death of hearing about how great the great white men of the past, all these people that were immortalized in stone, that they're crying over, the slave master that they
Mm,
threw in the water in Bristol. They
mm,
only threw his statue, but they will shed tears. Even veterans will come over
mm,
great white men of the past that were actually terrorizing black people.
mm,
For me, and it's just like it's a covert way of attacking black men, especially black African men. Because at the end of the day, what you're basically saying is that what I find with it is I'm so sick of hearing about the white man's achievements because I'm not white. None of my
mm,
family is white. We're just plain old African and
mm,
black. Yeah. How will
mm,
I get any self esteem if all they ever talk about is what the great white man did?
mm. Do you feel that
What
in
about what
England?
black men did? Because my fingers, Raven, is they are some black men
Right,
that are idiots,
of course.
who are abusive, etc., etc.
Right.
But they're not all like that.
No, no. Do you feel that what was I going to say? Do you feel that with black men and black women, and maybe more so men, I don't know, you have to tell me, that
Mm.
the more established they become in the public eye, the least likely they are to actually pick a partner who looks like them. Do you see any consistency in that statement? I've
Yeah,
heard that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, why do you think that is?
I think, for example, I could if you just put like footballers and entertainers, it's
Right.
it's the access. Which women are going to be around in those places? Like, for example, the footballers when they're going to places, which the black women are not going to get into those places.
Mm.
These footballers and some of these footballers are earning thousands, hundreds of thousands a week.
Yes.
The average black woman is not going to be there. It's going to be white women, so that's why they're going to push it.
Right.
And some white women as well, um, they fetishize black men. They want the little coffee cream baby. They will
Right.
throw themselves at black men, and then they are black men who generally have low racial self-esteem. That they believe that when they get a white woman, they're a somebody. If they had a black woman, they're a nobody. And
Right.
a white woman, for certain black men, if you've got low racial self-esteem as a black man or a black woman,
Mm.
if you get a white partner, you feel like you've made it. You become part of dominant society. A
Mm.
black partner cannot bring you into dominant society the way a white person can.
Right.
And who wants to be on the losing team? Many people don't want to be on the losing team, even if it's detrimental to their own self. For example, someone like what's that lady's name that everybody hates? That the ones that's always causing trouble. She got that rich white man. Candice, is it Candice Owen?
Oh, oh yeah, the American, yeah, Candace Owens, yes.
Yeah. She's an opportunist. If
Right.
you listen to the amount of things that she says, It's just opportunism. Black people are always wrong. The white people are always right. She would sell her soul. And the white man that she picked an elite white man from Britain who's part of the elite.
Right.
It's pure opportunist. You know, she's an opportunist.
Is he from? You say he's from England? Is that right? He's from Britain.
Yeah, he's from England and he's called George Farmer. And he's part, I think his dad is a lord in the Houses of Lords. You know,
Right.
one of these aristocrats.
Are we seeing more? Is it just because we have a bigger media network now than the past? But are we seeing now more women picking non-black men as partners? Is that something that we're seeing more of, or has it always been that kind of that ratio?
I think historically, like it's more black men that tend to have white partners, but now more black women are picking non-black partners.
Mm,
Um, and I think for me, from what I know of the black women and stuff like that, I think for it's not been able to find a good black man because let's be honest, finding a good black man is not really easy if you live in a white country for one, and then if you're not in London as well, because
mm,
50% of the black people actually live in London.
right,
Um, you know what I mean? So if you're not in London, it's you've got small fry, and then you've got all these thirsty white women that throw their knickers at these black men.
right,
Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's not easy. I mean, I know my friend who has a white partner. Another thing is, one of my friends has a white partner, and
mhm,
she used to hate white people, but due to the fact that the relationship she had with her ex went sour, you know, the love turned rotten,
right,
and you know, he was abusive. He ended up in prison, and I think that's what made her go and get a white guy.
right.
And do you see what I mean? So I think sometimes some people are choosing non-black partners. It's out of pain and hurt.
So just to help paint that picture, you're saying you had an individual friend who was
Mm,
with a black brother, and he
yeah,
was somewhat abusive,
yeah,
and I guess they ended up splitting up when he went to jail, or maybe before then. And what happened is, even though beforehand she was very untrustworthy of the white community and some of
yeah,
the antics that she's experienced, she decided still she would rather be with a white person than another black person because of the pain from the black person. Is that what you're saying?
I think some of it, but also to tell you the truth, I don't even think she wants to be with him because I remember when we were talking about sex, you know, the way women do, and she's like this, oh, I haven't had one of those black men for a long time. And the feeling I always get from her is if a good black man came along, she'd kick the white boy to the curb.
Right. I mean, the thing is, the question I always ask is if there's challenges going on in your life that is of a people base, meaning that being part of a certain people group, you're facing much challenges. What interest does your partner have in tackling those challenges? Or is it just it's not really on the agenda because there's other things going on? And is there a value in your partner trying to fix challenges that your people go through and which you qualify automatically for? And I haven't really heard too many people speak on this, to be honest. And I'm very happy that you've actually started this conversation because even though this is show 4, I would like us to set up another show where we
Mm,
actually get more people, like guys and girls of an equal ratio, and we can talk it through just to see like is this a problem? Is there, if it is a problem, is there a solution? What uh, is it equal? Like when you look at other community groups, do they go through the same kind of um, issues when it comes to finding partners and you mentioned something just not too long ago about self hate, as in like collective self hate or just black self hate or just not necessarily feeling comfortable as a black person and trying to escape any way you can. And I
yeah,
guess being with someone who's non-black could be seen as one of the easiest way to escape.
yeah, yeah. Like you know, like in America where they had the passing white, the
Yeah,
mixed race people who would pass.
yeah,
They wanted an easier life.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess. Well, I wrote down stuff you said, and you were saying your mom told you at a young age. You said she prefer if you were actually looking actively for a black partner rather than a
Yeah,
non-black partner. Is that correct?
yeah. My mum didn't play. That's one thing that we knew. That don't think that you're gonna roll in with a white person.
Right. And then some people who hear that they like some people who don't necessarily live the black experience or even care, and they just tap into the show now. Um, let's try to explain the motivation behind such a statement, because some people just think that you might wake up and then you make these statements, but there's a context behind why a mother or father might tell their son or daughter, I prefer that you try to find a black partner rather than a non-black partner. What do you think was the motivation behind your mom telling you this?
I think it was the racism that she encountered when she came to Britain in the 70s, but also the racism that she experienced in Nigeria
Right,
when Shamu went to boarding school. And one of the things that the colonizers were doing, the white colonizers, they were beating English into the kids. If
right,
you if you did not speak English in school, you would get a beating.
right,
You were not allowed to speak your native language in school. So
right,
that type of child abuse would have an effect on a child. And then when the child becomes an adult, like my mum, and then she comes to the country, do you know what I mean?
right.
That is going to cause a lot of resentment. And why would you want your children to marry the very people that were abusing you in your own homeland?
Also, something that we're going to touch on too as well is that when you do have mixed relationships, obviously a family doesn't exist in the singular. Like a family is always connected to other people,
Mm.
and I'm yet to hear, and I'm looking for a story for someone to tell me this. I'm yet to hear a story of a person who's married into another cultural group, and the black side hasn't received racism or mistreatment or just undermining for just being black. This is something I see quite consistent, and I'm still yet to hear a story where that hasn't happened. And what I seem to see, and someone correct me if their experience is different, is the non-black family very judgmental and disappointed with the black choice, and then the black family being upset by this reality and reacting to it. So I see that dynamic going on a lot, and it seems to be quite consistent. Like I'm yet to see a documentary or a show or a film where the black family just generally hate the non-black partner choice. It seems to be black people are reacting to a treatment, and it sounds like your mum is reacting to a mistreatment, as in she's aware of a mistreatment that's gone on, and she
Yeah,
doesn't want it to happen to you.
yeah, this is it. And because I spoke to my mum about this a couple of months ago, and she said another thing that she said that most of these mixed race relationships, they don't work, you know. And another thing she said was about the illnesses that a lot of said that a lot of these white people have a lot of different illnesses,
Right,
like like mentally handicapped, this type of thing. So she doesn't see this in Africa,
right.
all these
So
different illnesses.
yeah, so there is like cultural and biological illnesses that affected different continents at different times, and it was through mixing where these illnesses were passed over. Like, there's a history of that. I'm aware of that.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
like smallpox, the Europeans bring smallpox to the Native Americans.
yeah. So do you feel that then there's a because right now not all black parents are gonna necessarily advise their children on trying to find a black partner or any particular partner. What I'm noticing that it's not really a conversation to be had. Do you reckon there's a value in black parents actually sitting down with their children and letting them know that it might be better for you or the community if when you're looking for a partner you start in the black community first? Do you reckon that might be a good advice at all?
Yes, yeah, I think it's the first advice you should give your children. Your children must be comfortable with who they are.
Mm.
You, regardless of whether you get a non-black partner, you're always going to be black.
Right. Before you continue that, just so the people who are viewing at the moment, even though these shows are recorded so people can view them in years to come, if you are the lucky ones to actually catch it live, you're always welcome to join in. So even though this is Betty's time now, at a certain point it will be open to people discussing, and people are welcome to jump in, to contribute, to just ask for a different perspective, or to give a testimony that might correlate or maybe contradict some things that's been said here today. So what I'll do while we're speaking, I'll put the link in the group, and everyone's welcome. But we're gonna let Sister Betty just go through what she wants to talk about, and then afterwards we can open up for if anyone who wishes to join to come into the lobby. Yeah. So okay, so that's interesting. Betty. So what do you now? This might be a very big question, and it probably can't be answered by you directly now. But what do you think a solution, a strategy could be to make black men and black women spend more time in one loving each other, but two obviously trying to develop constructive partnership? Because obviously you can get people together, but if there's damage beforehand and they don't have self-love beforehand, then you're probably gonna break down the relationship, and they're probably not gonna actually find much to get on with if they themselves are damaged people.
I think like some of the people I know myself, and I've struggled to find a black partner and stuff like that. The lesson I learned was you've got to hang out in black spaces. Some of the people I know who are black, who don't have black partners and struggling, it's because they just don't hang out in black spaces. Do you know what I mean? They're like, I can't find a black partner, but they're I don't know, they're at the cricket club, which is notoriously white. Do you know what I mean? I think the first thing black people need to do is you need to be around other black people. And I think this is one of the things that some black people don't do. I know, like, there's one of the American Brothers show that I go on, and he's a really nice guy. And I noticed that he was complaining about one of the notorious American ladies, who has a YouTube channel, and she's known for like always complaining about white supremacy and complaining about black men. And what I found is there are black men who will go and look for love in the wrong places.
Right.
They will see a black woman who's articulate and who's able to talk about white supremacy, and then they will run to her and forget that her black father was a drug addict, didn't look after her, and she got a baby father who's got like 5 different kids, and she's got a kid with him, and their relationship broke up. But I find that there are some black men that are so desperate. Funny, I feel like black women validate black men. So some black men, and there's nothing wrong with brothers going to look for love and validation, but sometimes they go and seek it in the wrong places. They will go to a black woman who is clearly got daddy issues.
Right.
Yeah. And when she just slaughters them with words, they're like in shock. And I'm like, don't go to damage black women, especially when you know that their black father, was not good. And I think, and I noticed there's quite a lot of black men that I noticed that do that, and then they get bitter and start saying, "Oh, black women ain't this, black women ain't that." Do you know what I mean? And it's like, don't go looking for validation and love in the wrong places.
Yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying there. It's picking a partner, but then I guess some people, what they do is they might find a damaged black person, and then they treat that black person as a representation of all black people, right?
Yes.
And then they might not necessarily want to venture into picking another black person because they see black people as a monolith in attitudes. I do think there's a value in teaching, the strengths in black unions, and I do think community building is a very important one, and I do still believe that, or understand that, your partner is your love partner is your business partner, and unfortunately one day you're going to pass away, and your partner will inherit what you have actually worked through your life for. And if your partner isn't correlated with betterment for your people, then everything that you work towards will be pushed into another community. I'm aware of that. And that's something that I would like to talk about as well. And by the way, guys, I've put the link in the actual forum So if anyone wants to join towards the end, just click on that link and you'll be in the lobby and I can add you in. But keep in mind, you can always ask to join another time and you can pick your own topic. But this week's topic is, can Black love help Black people achieve betterment? Right? So can it be? Can Black people loving Black people help the community flourish? Do you think so?
Yeah, because I think in the past, if you look at any great civilization
Right.
in Africa that is a black civilization, it
Right.
was black love that created it.
Right.
How will black people fight the system of racism and white supremacy if they don't even love the person that they see in the mirror?
Right. I hear that. So let's tackle some issues that some issues that Black people who don't pick Black people, it is genuinely for love and isn't for anything else. As in, like, they're picking a non-Black person because they genuinely love that person, and that's what it is. There's probably a lot of truth to that statement, but one thing I was reviewing the other day was it was more so the concept of wealth. I'm always interested in the concept of wealth and how many of the wealthy Black men
Mm.
uh, end up with non-Black women, and usually European, and usually they're blonde and so forth.
Mm.
But I don't see that repeated in the wealthy white women picking poor Black men. I don't see that. I don't see, like, if love, if you love someone based, and it's not to do with color and all the rest of it. I don't see the dynamic shift when there's wealthy, rich white women picking men. They don't tend to pick poor Black men, but rich Black men do tend to pick poor white women. So already there's a balance in wealth and a balance in the community, and that's something that I'll probably like to tackle at some point. Like, what is going on there? And also, if you do have Black men who have low self-esteem, if you do have that, then naturally, when they find wealth, they're going to see success in the arms of non-Black people, right? They're going to see that as a validation that there's something, which that in itself needs to be tackled and expanded, and see if we cannot, build a solution to that.
Yeah, but certainly, but how? Because this is the thing. How do, like, you want to build a black community? So the black community, it's got to be black. It's got to be run by black people. You
Right.
can't. The minute you start having like a black man and then he's got a white wife, that's not a black family anymore. That's a multiracial family.
Right. Now,
Do you know what I mean? It does, and then if you look at the civilizations that were
mm,
created that were black, they weren't. They didn't have a black man, and a white woman at the helms of it, or
mm.
a black woman and a white man.
What do you say then to so obviously in England, especially London and stuff, you're going to have unions between Europeans and Africans and Black people and white people and stuff, and you're going to obviously have people of mixed heritage offspring. What is your view towards the behaviors of those offspring, or the situations they find themselves in, or your interactions as a youth around people of mixed heritage? What is your experience around that?
For me, the way I see the mixed race people is they're part of the oppressed and the oppressor. That is
Right.
what it is. That's what the current dynamic is.
Mm.
White people are the oppressor and the black people are the oppressed. So they're in a unique situation. But
Right.
for example, if we compare two different mixed race people, you got someone like a Carla, the
Mm.
mother is white, but the dad is black. But obviously his white mother has done enough to make sure that he knows about his black side and is comfortable with that, but he's also comfortable with his whiteness. But
Mm.
then there are other mixed race people who are plain old toxic. Do you know what I mean? That just like, I'm not black, I'm mixed race. Well, mixed race is not actually a colour.
Mm.
You've got to be something. Do you know what
Mm.
I mean? So I think it depends on the parents. But for me personally, I don't like dealing with mixed race people because in Britain, my experience of the average mixed race person is they've got bare self hate. Now, that might be because I'm from the north,
Right.
yeah, and in the north, there's not a lot of black people,
Okay.
yeah. So you will find a plethora of mixed race people who have a white mother and their black father is nowhere to be seen. And these white mothers were not able to impart any sort of a racial self-pride in their child of mixed origin. And some of these white women were having kids with black men to piss off their racist white father.
Right. So it's more of a fetish or a revenge kind of.
I don't think, because I noticed that when I talk to people, black people from London and mixed race people from London, and the people up north, I see the difference even in the black experience down south to up north.
Well, explain it. Explain the difference you've observed between the two areas.
I think in London you're surrounded more by blackness because there's more black people, so the self-worth in blackness is higher. And I've noticed mixed race people in London tend to feel like they're more black than because there's more black people about. But in up north in Manchester, there's not a lot of black people about, and some of these black fathers are nowhere to be seen. So you'll find quite a lot of mixed race people who feel like they're white and they act white and they say very negative things about being black.
Yeah.
I know as black people up north, we're able to cope more with racism than people from the south, especially London, because like places like like Brixton and Brecon, those black places in London where there's so many black people, like
Right.
they're very sensitive to racism. They seem to fly off the minute a white person says something. They seem to fly off because they're not used to that. But up north, we just got to deal with it. We couldn't fly off every single time because we don't have the numbers to back us up. We don't have the black people to back us up, so we just got to roll with it.
Right. So isn't there any like concentrated areas like Manchester where there's quite a significant amount of black people?
It's never to the extent that is in London. Like you won't get more than like 30% of black people in Manchester in any area.
Right. So
It's all about
when you see people of mixed heritage and stuff, who do they end up? Who do you find? Is there a pattern who they end up picking as
white
partners?
people.
They end up picking black people. You say?
Mixed race people in Manchester, the majority of them will always be white people.
Right. Okay.
It's quite rare to see a mixed race person with a black person. It happens, but the majority of them are with white people.
So I suspect their offspring then will then obviously look even closer towards European.
Yeah.
And do you see any identity challenges in that kind of stuff, or not really in the offspring of the offspring, if you know what I mean?
Because I'm trying to think, I don't really know anyone that's had like one grandparent that's black and all the rest are white. I think I remember one years and years ago in school, but she was all right because she was like, I think she was quarter Nigerian. But oh yeah, I do have a friend, like one of my mixed race friends who's got bare self-hate issues. His niece is like quarter, and it was just like not really comfortable. Oh yeah, I do actually have another friend. I had another friend, another guy that I grew up with, and he was really like negative about being quarter. His I think it was his granddad that was from Sierra Leone, and it was just like really proper self-hate issues because there's no positive images of blackness, especially with his granddad being an African. Nobody wanted to be African in the 80s. Do you know? No one wanted to associate with Africa. But we don't have things like in London you've got like the Black Cultural Centre. You've got a lot of black things in Manchester and up north. We just don't have that.
So when it comes to like self-love, and you've identified that there might be a few black people and African people and so forth who they don't, let's say, have the best opinions of themselves or their community. Do you see that kind of thought patterns in other communities when you're growing up? Do you see the kind of self-hatred in other communities? Or yes or no? Have you seen that pattern repeated?
I notice white women they are white women who are using black men because they don't want to admit that they're part of the dominant society. They don't want to admit that they benefit from white supremacy. They want to prove that they're not a racist, so they go with a black man. And some of them have come from abusive relationships, like they might have a white father that's a woman beater. who's abused them, and they've grown to hate whiteness,
Mm.
and they run to black men for safety.
So you said something earlier towards the effect of something like some people who are European white and within a dominant society might believe that by being with a black person, this could be a form of forgiveness or act of like
Yeah,
solidarity or something on the ledge. This is something that you see happening, you reckon?
yeah, I do. You
Mm.
see it. I see it quite a lot. They are white women, and I listen carefully to what they say, and
Right,
they, well, I'm not like that. I'm not a racist.
right.
Do you know what I mean? So it's about them. It's about their ego. It's about them trying to get rid of this white collective guilt. The white man's burden, I think they call it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. So a question I would ask, and I always ask it when I debate and stuff, is if black people openly said, "Okay, I'm not allowed to have sexual relations with, say, a white person until racism, white supremacy has been completely dismantled." Do you reckon white people collectively come together and, for that reason, dismantle all forms of racism to allow them to procreate with black people? Do you reckon that will do it?
I never really thought of it, but I definitely think I definitely think it would have some certain effect, because I hear there are certain white women that I've come across who, like, the minute you say black betterment and
Mm.
black people buying black and being with black relationships, they go crazy because they
Yes.
don't get to sleep with a black man. That's all it's
Wrong.
about. They're,
I
they're
hear that. So yeah, so what you're talking about forms of lust, really, and I think
yeah,
that's what I was trying to get to in the points of like when you talk to people about how much they really care about situations. Right now, black people lay no demands on the table for anything, from what I'm seeing, from a collective standpoint. And
yes,
just as a hypothetical scenario of just of comedy and giggles, I say like, what if black people collectively said, okay, we will only be with black people until other communities no longer practice anti-black racism or white supremacy. And when you those same people who say, no, we love our black partners, we love them to the to the end of the moon and the end of the earth and stuff. I wonder if those same people who say that would actually once being told they cannot be with a black partner until they dismantle racism and
mm,
mistreatment, if they would actively literally go ahead and try to dismantle it. But I suspect the majority of them wouldn't. I suspect, like you just mentioned earlier, a lot of this could be down to fetishism, or getting back at parents, or just other reasons that we haven't documented.
mm,
Um, and that's my area of interest to find out, the motivations behind certain unions and how beneficial they are, and obviously the mind state more so of the black person engaging them. Like, does that black person have any interest in bettering his community and his offspring? And that's the interesting conversation I like to have. Now, guys, this is the Black Betterment Show, and the topic is, can black love help black people achieve betterment? We have Sister Betty on giving us her perspective. Always great opinionated lady there, and I've put the actual link to the forum in the actual chat, and anyone can join now and jump in. Most people are slightly intimidated by it, but you can also pick a topic and join that topic next week or the week after if you like. But this week, the topic is, can black love help black people achieve black betterment? And my answer is, I believe it can. I suspect Betty's answer is, I think black love can actually help achieve betterment. But I guess the question, or the place we're at the moment, is, how do we put value in the black community to see love in the black environment, in the black union, in the black relationships? How do we do that? And as we started, Sister Bay was talking about many black people are actually scared to even utter or identify that they see value in picking a black person. And she's also identified that her mom, who experienced many horrible experiences, would tell her that, I would prefer you to pick a black person to minimize some of these challenges that I've gone through. And I'll push forward. Is there a value in black people telling black children that it might be in your best interest, as long as we're under a system where there is so much prevalence in anti-black notions and practices that it might be in your best interest to try to look for a black person to start your life with. Um, so that's kind of where we're at. Um, we've been on for almost an hour now, which obviously when Sister Betty talks, time goes by because she's got so much information to give. Is there anything else you'd like to drop in there, Sister Betty?
Um, I wanted to say, yeah, I want to say about black love and that it's important that black people love each other. You know, we are fighting a system of white supremacy. What is the opposite of white supremacy? What will counteract it is black love. That when black people truly love themselves, that is what will, and to build a strong black community, the foundation is black love. You cannot build a black community and a strong black community if you do not love yourself as a black person and have a black family.
Mm.
A mixed race family will never build a strong black community because the minute you have a mixed family, that's no longer a black family anymore.
Right.
All around the world, regardless of whether you're a black Aborigine, whether you're a black Papua New Guinea, Africa, the Caribbean, we are at the bottom.
Right. And this is something that I've observed and I agree with you. And I think that in these situations, it probably makes collective sense to have inward progressional way of operating. And, you know, I think if we haven't established whether black people are suffering from a low collective self esteem, we won't never know the true motivations why they might look to certain directions for whatever, right? And I think that's something we would definitely want to, find out more about. And also, right now we have two people on the panel, myself and Sister Betty. But this is a very big topic, and it's one that I definitely want to get, six people talking on. People who might be leaning more towards the direction of the value of black people picking black people, and then maybe some who might slightly disagree, and because there are many. Like Sister Betty mentioned, her I think it was a history teacher you mentioned. Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Who was very inspirational to you and taught you a lot, but where you struggled to understand the motivation when he told you all this history and all this pro-blackness and how to gain power and stuff, and yet he himself did not pick a black woman. And I think that's sometimes how we might have to put it. Rather than who they did pick, it's more who they didn't pick. You see, and
Yeah.
that might be the way to start the conversation. So by all means, guys, if you are in the group and you wish to join, the link is there. Join in. If you have any questions, you can post them now. It is quite a strong. Like usually there is one or two questions, but this topic does you get people kind of silent. But Sister Betty isn't one to be silenced from my experience of seeing her speak, and she will say what's on her mind. And definitely when we have that talk in the future, because we will bring you back, you will definitely be the first guest I approach to talk on the side of the values of black people, loving black people in black unions. So definitely, Sister Bear, you'll be there. And but the floor is yours. You may, like I said, once you've hit the hour mark, if no one joins in and there's no questions, we can go as long as we want, or we can end it. As long as you're happy with you've expressed yourself, and we can't go without you promoting your show, your new platform. Sorry, which is was it Black Girl? What was it again? Black Girl Problems. So even though I'm going to push this information in the actual info section, it'll be good if you actually mentioned it, as well as maybe pull it in the actual forum a bit, the post forum, so people can actually join on there. And hopefully next week your friend can join as well, and we can maybe continue when we'll be there. But yeah, the floor is yours again. So you can take it anywhere you like. You can ask questions, Sister Betty. You can do what you want. It's now yours, Sister. Conclude or just add to what you're saying.
Can I say another thing? You know, I've been told a lot by the people who support black people who dating outside their race that you know. But if you want to see what a black man and a white woman created, look at North Africa. Yeah, North Africa as is run by mixed race people of African, Asian, and European origin, and the black people are at the bottom. The indigenous inhabitants of North Africa are black people, yeah, and they're at the bottom, and they're getting terrorized. They're not allowed to speak their native language. That's one of the things that Gaddafi was overthrown for Arabizing Libya and not allowing the indigenous African languages, like the Berber languages and the taboo, to be spoken in schools. There was discrimination. Yeah. So if you want, so for all the so-called Pan-Africans that I come across, and it's mainly black men that have these white partners, and then even like I ran into my black history teacher, and he was living in Egypt. Yeah. And then when I was telling him about the discrimination that black African people face, he was like, no, it's not like that. And I was like, well, my partner's lived in Libya. He's told me all about it. So you're not going to come and lie. But this is the thing, that this is one of the problems, that anytime I hear, because I keep on hearing that if everybody keeps a mixing, racism will be out of business. But they've been mixing for 1,000 years in North Africa, and white supremacy is stronger than ever.
I hear that. I think what I try to do when I speak to people about decisions made, and this is something that I try to really set home, is there's the individual practice that you do that might work for you, and there's the collective practice that might work for black people, right? So as an individual, if you choose to do something, that's your choice. But if you then try to promote that choice as part of a solution and you recommend it, then you might be doing damage, because right now, if you have a black people who have low self-esteem, at the bottom, like you just mentioned, of every single economic metric in the world and stuff like that, then it probably makes sense for those people to actually learn how to love each other. So pushing any other templates in their mind of, okay, go out and do what you want, might not be in their best interest at that time. So I think what I'm pushing forward is, you as an individual, how you, whatever you want to do, that's your freedom and your choice. But for you to then try to make it a template for everyone to follow, that's where the challenge might come in. That's where you might be doing more harm than good. And what do you think of that concept, Betty?
Um, I think I don't know if I agree with everything. What I would say, I mean, it depends on who's saying it.
Right.
Because what I'm saying is, people. I've heard people promote interracial relationships with white folk as a solution for getting rid of white supremacy. But the minute you mention North Africa,
Right.
then nobody wants to hear it. They're like, oh, like I'm hearing these mixed North Africans tell us that all black people are not oppressed. The indigenous habitants of North Africa really want to be in the Sahara. Everywhere, in every North African country, the indigenous black people are at the bottom of the country, whether it's Libya, Algeria, Egypt. And you know what I mean? When black Africans have migrated to North Africa, they're like, get out, you African. But this is Africa. So why are black Africans, when they were being lynched in the Libyan war? But these are by the very mixed race people. They're not white people. They're actually mixed race. They were the ones doing the lynching of black Africans. They were lynching black Libyans as well, not just the black people from Niger, Sudan, and they were actually lynching their own people too. So this is why I'm not ready to hear all this interracial procreating with white folk. Is going to get rid of racism. No, let's talk about North Africa.
Yeah. No, I don't believe that you can you know sex your way into freedom. I think you have to. I think one of the values I push is dignity, and I don't think that's a dignified statement to say that you can sleep your way to equality and freedom. So I wouldn't be comfortable to promote people who say that, by sleeping with someone you're going to get a better way of life. This is not really the best strategy. So I agree with you on that, definitely, on that reality. Um, It is challenging, but continue, base. Is like I said, you have the floor now, so you're going to speak. Go as long as you want, and then when you're done, we shall. People can ask questions. Like I think you must be hearing a lot of facts because there's no questions at the moment, base. So I guess people are stunned or definitely in correlation with what you're saying or your experiences. So continue by all means.
Yeah, I just like because like for me, like for example, when I was talking to him about history teacher, and he was trying to assure me that black people are treated great in Egypt, and I've been to Egypt myself, so I know what's going on in Egypt. But my thing is like, if this is the case, where are the heads of state in North Africa that are black? Nobody, you don't see them. And then it's just like, so for me, and then I think also because he was from the Caribbean, is also there's a thing of if you're African Caribbean in Africa, you're gonna get treated better than the black Africans because like there's like Bob Marley, Caribbean culture, especially Jamaican culture, is very influential.
Mm.
But if you're just like a plain old black African, you know what I mean? What you bring in and this is what I don't think he could understand. But I think because at the end of the day, his children are mixed, he chose a white woman. But I noticed one of the other things, his white woman that he chose was a white woman who grew up in Africa, almost like this was a counteract for what he was doing. But he lost a lot of respect when I was younger because people were like, well, he's saying one thing and then he's doing it, he's talking black, procreating white and stuff like that. But for me, it's just like if you look at any civilization, and the great civilization, Zimbabwe, they had a civilization, didn't they? It's
Yeah.
just like they were nothing to do with white people,
Right.
So it's like why do and I just feel like some black people are so scared of being called racist as well.
Right.
And it's just like look at the amount of another thing is the mixed race children that these unions create are filling up the mental health wards in this country. Not only black people filling up are overrepresented in the mental health wards in this country. So are mixed race people.
I've noticed that myself when I visited. I've noticed there's quite it's quite alarming the scale from my last visit. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. It's just like, and then what is the solution to that? And you just like, and then you just like, if this is, if us coming together and procreating with the oppressor, um, is going to get rid of racism, why does it continue?
Very true. Now, for people who are listening, if you agree with what Sister Betty is saying, let us know. If you disagree, let us know. And if you would like us to cover this topic at a future date where you can bring other people to add their opinions, by all means, you can always contact me. Rap Raven at Instagram is the easiest way to get me, I guess. Or just leave a message in the message board underneath. But Sister Betty is trying to explain the values of black people picking black people when it comes to love, unions, marriage, and I guess building and having a family. And she believes that black people loving black people is definitely a solution for betterment in the black community. And she's given examples about when this hasn't been practiced and some of the negative effects that has happened, could happen, or does happen. So carry on, Sister Bay.
I think like for example, like even if you just get like now Africa's popping like things like makeup and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like like the makeup industry. I know in Nigeria, there's the makeup industry is popping. Things like Africa's really popping right now, and it's just like you need another black person. You need your black partner to be able to understand that. How is a non-black person going to understand that? Understand that like just so like from like you need cocoa butter for your skin.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to understand all that? And I've noticed that when you're with a black person, you have the common experience, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can share the same code. Like have you heard like what's that lady's name? She got that song called "Sheer Butter Babe."
Is this a new song or an old one?
Yeah, it's a new. I don't know if it's that new, but it's from what's her name? Is it Andre? something, and it's called shea butter, and she just talk about like sharing her shea butter with her partner, and that's like that. That's a lovely black experience, and for me, I started to feel better about black relationships because I didn't have a good example of black relationship as a kid. When I started to socialize with black people who are couples, and there's so many good black couples on YouTube that people can Google if you're looking, especially if you don't have a black partner right now and you're starting to feel despondent. They are beautiful black families that you can look at and give you get that validation.
Do you feel that in England or just in the world media generally, you see that much positive black unions and black partnerships on the media and TV? Do you feel that's the case?
No,
Right.
no, that's the problem. It's not. I tend to watch YouTube, and I watch a lot. There's several different black families that I watch. Some of there's one a Cameroonian, and then a Zimbabwe, the Mofa family,
Mm.
um, and they're a lovely couple. They've got little black children, and then just really positive. And then there's and the Mahogany Diaries. I think it's Mahogany Curls. Her and her husband, African American couple, and
Okay.
I think that's what black people need to do because we don't see that on the media. I mean,
Do,
look at how Meghan Markle yourself. Look at how Meghan Markle has been rammed down our throat with her Harry, the rich white man who's a prince. She's married into royalty. Ooh, even
so
though this is the same white man that was walking around with a Nazi uniform a couple of years ago and calling his friend the P word.
yeah, yeah. This is yes, very, 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 very valid point you made there. Um, So, what about adverts and stuff? Like, I've noticed a trend in adverts, especially England, probably more so to sort of Britain, where you're seeing more black partners with white partners. So, black people with white partners. So,
Yeah.
I remember my friend told me not too long ago that there was hardly any black people seen in adverts, even up into the 2000s, unless they were like famous for a certain reason, like they're a football player or like a game or something like that. And then at a certain point now, people have made changes and it's to include more of a diversity, quote unquote. And I guess that thing like if you're going to hire two actors, hire one black, hire one non-black, and that way you might be filling a quote or something. But have you noticed any trend in seeing black people with non-black partners in adverts that you've seen lately, anything like that?
Yeah, I think I remember that time where prior to 2000, just like your friend said, you didn't see black people in adverts. And I remember one time I saw a black person in an advert. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But yeah, I just feel like it's the Meghan Markle and Harry effect. Always like a black person with a white person, and they just ram it down your throat. But how often do you see black love celebrated in the media?
Yeah, so that will be part of the solution package. Like, how do black people collectively come together to create that visual of black love? So, as you see on the screen we have at the moment, as I'm flicking through, you're seeing, black people in a cherishing moment with each other. How do we get to see more of that in a mainstream or just in any kind of interaction or media? And I think that will be part of the solution package that we collectively come together. And it might be that just like your mother told you, look, I really would like you to pick a black person for these reasons, and this might be more beneficial. But her trying to show people like you more positive images of that, because if you say that maybe unfortunately your father himself wasn't around and did many things that was not in the best interest of the family and stuff, well then maybe it would have helped you more to see more constructive like relationships just to balance that out. I don't know. What do you think, Sister Bay?
Yeah, I think anybody who's is come from a broken home as a black person, you do have to surround yourself with black people who are in positive relationships and who have black love. Because if you don't, you're not going to find that black partner that you want. And I think, everyone heals, don't they? If not everybody's lucky enough to have a mum and dad that are together and grow up in a good family background. But just because you come from a broken home as a black person, that doesn't mean that you can't find black love and a good black relationship and stuff. Um, as long as you make that your priority and never apologize for being black. I mean, even though the show is Car Crash TV, I do enjoy watching the Atlanta Housewives.
Right.
Um, and I think one of the reasons why I enjoy it because they're in black partners.
Right. Yes.
Even though it's an American show, you just don't get to see that in the UK.
Right. So there's definitely a need to see more. Even though you have mentioned that I haven't seen that show myself, but they might not be the best interactions in that show. It's still good just seeing that they're together.
Yes. Yeah, it's nice to see that they're together. And also, like Jarena, she's studying film to be a filmmaker. So it's important that black people create, films that celebrate black love and black stories, and that's what we want to see. That's what I started watching. Because I was getting fed up with all the negative stereotypes coming from America. I started watching Eritrean movies, Ghanaian movies, because they didn't have those really negative black stereotypes.
Mm. That's interesting. So what you're saying is you've actively gone out looking for constructive visuals to counter what you're seeing in the mainstream.
Yeah, because that's the only way to keep your sanity. Because I was getting fed up. I really like movies and stuff like that, but I was getting fed up of the negativity coming from America. Like films like the black film that gets celebrated that we all hear about is 12 Years a Slave or The Help or
Yeah.
Precious. That disgusting movie that Oprah backed, Precious.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I was just like, oh, The Colour Purple. I was in hairdressing class this week, and then one of the girls said, I love The Colour Purple. And I thought, yeah, because I thought to myself, yeah, because you're frigging white. That's why you loved it. It's
I'm yet to see that, but I do hear a lot of complaints about it, as in it doesn't necessarily show black men in a good light, and
no,
I see a consistent theme with a lot of these kind of like slave or quote unquote black movies, where regardless of what's happening, you never truly see they manage to always make the black man the enemy.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
One good movie that's really a nice movie. It's called Jason's Lyric with Jada Pinkett and Alan Payne. That's a really nice, even though it's set in like a ghetto, like in America, but you've got like a black guy that is chasing Jada, one of the characters, and he works in the selling TVs, and his brother is like go in and out of prison, but it's a really beautiful love story. It's in the 90s, but it's a beautiful black love story.
Right.
And it just that I love that film. I actually love that film, but for me, those type of movies don't get broadcast. You know what I mean? They don't showcase them. Those little niche independent movies.
I think
That
I think there's probably a value in obviously having black recommendations like you're doing there, and definitely put that in the forum and stuff and the comments. But also maybe black people collectively doing like movie nights or movie, hangout halls where they actually show constructive, black relationship movies, just to help counter the stuff we actually are seeing. That might be an interesting way of doing things. So, Sister Bay, we're now.
that's true. That's true. I know, like Witness. Witness is a real film buff. He likes movies too.
Right. Witness. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So already we're hitting some kind of solutions there. Now, so it's about 11:20 now. So by all means, you can carry on talking. It's up to you. If you've got anything else you want to say, carry on.
I'd like to ask you some questions. If I could ask you questions.
You most certainly can. What can I ask?
Yeah, and like for example, so can I ask you, how were you raised? Were you, because I know your partner is black, and how, because you're really into black and betterment and black love and stuff like that. How were you raised? What made you want to have a black partner?
It's funny because I think with my, my my dad passed when I was 7, so I was pretty much raised by my mum until she was remarried a bit later on. But my mum never directly told me anything black, but the way she acted, like she was very, like when boxing was on, she used to like not like seeing two black people fight each other. That bothered her. When the World Cup was on, we were always rooting for Cameroon. Um, so I really realized that okay, there's a pattern here, and I think it was a collection of those actions that kind of steered me as a young age. Like, okay, like black people, you have to have extra detail and look out for black people because of some of the challenges. And when my dad was alive, he didn't tell me much because he died when I was 7. But
Yeah.
I remember him telling me like, you're a black guy, so you might have to try harder, or twice as hard as other people in many things. So these things kept me like always aware that there's an issue going on and it needs to be dealt with. And then I think I became quite aware of colorism quite young,
Yeah.
and I never made a distinction between black women, like for whether they were albino to Sudanese, whatever, right?
Mhm.
I never made a distinction, but I was aware that a distinction was being made, and by the time that awareness came, I wasn't affected by it. So I wasn't looking at a darker skinned black lady lesser than a light skinned. It was that spell never came over me. I managed to skip that, so I was at a tremendous advantage. That is like I saw the beauty within, but I also then realized that I have to talk about beauty without because I have to focus and try to highlight in the community that there is this mistreatment going on within the community, and I have
Mhm.
to be part of the process to reverse it. Um, so that's kind of that got me there. And then I guess once you're interested in one kind of topic, you start researching, and the more you're researching, I was very proud that when I researched about how to try to reverse some of the challenges black people go through, many things I did automatically, me and some of my friends did automatically, um, made sense. So, for example, when I was a kid, we would always draw characters and stuff and invent our own characters. And one thing I realized that all the characters I designed were black, right? As in, I saw a value in designing black characters, me and my friends, right?
Yeah.
And there are many people that when you were younger, that might not be their default. Their default might be design something else, right? Because they're not really looking within.
Yes.
So I think that was already there. So then once I started, researching more and more about, black betterment and black power and this kind of stuff like that, it's like it made sense that, if you're going to build a community, you pick a black woman. And it was very fortunate that black women are extremely beautiful. So that was very handy because it just made sense, right? So that's kind of how there wasn't no real starting point and there was no real like direction, like here's what you should be doing. Although I do feel there's still a value, and I would appreciate if my parents would have been, more like, well, here's what black people go through, and here's some of the solutions. But they managed to get me on the right path without telling directly to me, certain strategies or what I should be doing.
Yeah. So they
So
sort of lived it by they lived the experience
yes,
to you.
and that's a good point you said there. Like, unfortunately, and this will bring up to other topics in the future as well. Many black people don't live the betterment experience. So what they're living shouldn't necessarily be recreated, but it will be recreated. So it might be even come down to like, we're aware that smoking isn't great for the lungs, but many people smoke. So what the introduction to smoke to children might be through their parents, right?
Mm.
So it might be even though you smoke, you should be preaching against to your children. Like, even though I do this, I'm not the best example. I recommend you don't do this because it's not beneficial for your health. I think that's where the value of articulation comes by. And I think to answer your question, that's kind of how it was those small details of like my mum rooting for Cameroon even though we lived in England. You know what I mean? And
So
and and I still remember that Roger Miller, I think his name was, and I pretty much knew all the squad because my mum was like, "Yeah, you know, that's your team. Your team is Cameroon." I was like, "Okay." Do you know what I
I
mean?
Yeah, I think like one of the things that you said that I found quite interesting is the colorism, and I think that's another thing that I forgot to mention. Um,
Mm,
in terms of trying to find a partner, like how I grew up, um, I didn't really know. I didn't in my house. I would say in my house, my dad was like a dark skinned black man, and my
mm,
mum's like a little bit lighter than me, and I just thought we were all black. I didn't
mm,
know. In our house, we were just black, but
yeah,
different shades.
yeah,
But my experience of my Caribbean friends, the girls. I'm not talking about the boys, but the girls. I remember there was a dark skinned Jamaican girl and she was plump. You know, she was a chubby girl, but beautiful. So,
mm,
and the hatred that was shown to her because she was dark,
mm,
and it was just like that's how I found out about colorism through my Caribbean friends, and I think this is another issue in terms of trying to find a partner. There are many black women
mm,
who feel, and I've not felt that myself, but if I look at I got my best friend's also Nigerian, and she's like, I let wax color. That's what yeah. And I remember her saying when we got as an adult saying that I always wanted to be your color.
mm,
And I never realized Raven because I just thought she's just my friend. Because in my house, my mum didn't make any distinction.
yeah,
Everybody was just black.
yeah,
But I never realized. But I
yeah,
do remember my Jamaican friend that because she was dark, everything was blamed on being dark. Black people are poor because they're dark. They're bad parents because they're dark. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? What I grew up as a kid believing that Caribbean people did not like black people. If you were
yeah.
skin,
Yeah, I think it's something that I realized and didn't realize at certain points, and you know, and one thing I would say is we need to talk about the Caribbean cultures and community. There's very big dynamics. So, for example, you have the Rasta community who are very pro black, very pro African, and you know very non judgmental towards this stuff. But what you have there is you have a consciousness, meaning that they're actively trying to change something. They're actively trying to practice something. While if when you have the other end of the people who are just living in the system, living under you know the legacy of the colonization and stuff and that kind of training, what you're seeing there is by default they're going to be anti-black, either known or not known it. And I have seen that where yes, the further you're away from African or blackness, the better you are because it gives you more privileges. So naturally, when it comes to picking partners or saying who's beautiful, they're gonna try to get as close to Europeanness as possible. But the reason why the Russes, to name one of the groups, didn't fall for that is because they're actively trying to promote black betterment. They're actively trying to promote black love and you know and constructive things towards Africa and stuff. So that's why I say that if in the Caribbean or any black community that's facing the West or has some kind of colonial legacy, if you're not actively saying positive things for black people and actively trying to highlight strengths and good angles, then what happens is the system takes over and you're gonna have that person who actually ends up hating being black, whether they know it or not, whether they even identify it as an issue or something that's actually happening. And what you're mentioning amongst the women, unfortunately, being mistreated for being darker, is that. And that's why when I do Black Betterment collections and collectives and those kind of stuff, we have to, our writings and our teachings have to reverse that process. We have to show that there's a value. First of all, being black, regardless of what shade you are, you're important, you're black, it doesn't matter. However, there is a value in highlighting dark skinned people because when you're talking about the oranges of humanity, you're talking about the darkest hue, right? And we're trying to highlight many things that the darker people have done or do or contributed to in history, so we can get that balance. Because right now there is a lack of balance, and that's why we need to have a conscious talk, and that's what a part of the holistic reasons why I've pushed to do a Black Betterment broadcast, and also I go out in the public to reverse those challenges of colorism, which is unnecessary in the black community.
yeah, I feel like I I feel like if when I talk to darker skinned black women, I think that struggle, the darker you are as a woman, as a black woman, it's a harder struggle. I don't think anyone with any sense would deny that. Even just like I was trying to get a dolly for my niece,
Mm.
um, and because she's quite dark, because her dad is from Barbados and he's a dark-skinned black man. So I was like running around trying to find a dolly, and it was like a right old hassle running around like Greater Manchester, and I managed to find the dolly,
Mm.
but it was just like like just like when I went to my niece's house and I saw that she had like four bloody Barbies and they were blonde, and I
Yeah.
was just like, this is not going to help her self-esteem. And just trying to explain it to my sister, who's her mom, and she didn't understand it because my sister's like a little bit like than me. She doesn't understand colorism, and I
Mm.
tried to explain it to her, and she's like, "Oh no, she'll get picked on it. Get picked on, and people get picked on when they're kids." And I
Mm.
think this is another issue. I was watching another show where there was like a lady that was like your color, and her daughter was like my color, and her daughter was trying to explain to her mum that you don't understand, mum, because you're light. And I
Yeah.
think this is another issue that we have in the black community, that if you're not of a certain hue, you might not notice the colorism.
No. Well, no,
Yeah,
that goes on, and I think in that situation, in those situations, the person who goes through the challenge and the problems is the person you listen to the most. You see, and I think we might have a history of not listening to people who are actually describing their actual pain. So you're giving the darker skinned people the forum to express, and that will be a topic definitely of the future shows, and where we do give the platform to darker skinned people to express what they're going through and how to better to find solutions for anti-black sentiments as well as shadism and colorism and this kind of stuff.
yeah.
So that,
Don't you feel like that affects the colorism? I feel that affects black love because I know I came across like certain black guys that were like when I was young, and like even to it, they tended to be Caribbean guys, but they were like obsessed with the red bone girl,
yeah,
mixed race girl, and they always tended to be dark skinned black men, and
yeah.
it was just like, do
Well,
you know?
I know what you mean, and this is very true. And I remember growing up and hearing those same kind of men say the same kind of stuff. And I think what I try to do to put out there in the community is to actually like identify what's actually going on and then retitle it. So, for example, you know, when you are actively looking for the lightest person possible, what you're actually trying to do is be as close to a European as possible, but not be for European, right? So
Yeah.
you have to describe the history of that. Like, you know, you come from a people group that was mistreated, and you've been completely flipped over and brainwashed in your values. And what you're identifying is your low self esteem, and you know, and you're trying to fix your low self esteem by doing something that's further separating you from black people. Like, you know, you're definitely trying to get away within your. So, for example, in America and maybe some of the Caribbean places in the past, you couldn't marry white people, right? So the closest thing you could do is get someone who was registered as black but looks close to white. You see?
Mm.
Now, already, when you talk that way or you act that way, you're showing a defeated person. So I will try to ask the people who are more woke, never be offended by a person who does that because they're broken. And once we identify that, we highlight to them, but they are not in the best place to be as partners anyway. If a person is thinking that way, then they ain't going to make the best partner for a dark skin person because they're already broken. They need to be taken and completely re-educated and completely just flipped upside down and told them, you know, more constructive ways of thinking. You know,
Mm.
and what I'm saying, there are cultural groups and people out there who think that way, and that's why you get the opposite narrative from those guys because their education is on a complete different spectrum. So what you're saying is correct. It does go on, and hopefully we can come together as a community to reverse that.
Yeah, it's like I think it's so important that black women and black children, especially women and girls, because a woman is valued on her beauty. It's men are not valued on their beauty. Men are valued on, how much they can provide and etc. etc. But regardless of, that's just the way the world works. The, the world values women's beauty. Um, Now, it's like literally like it's just like a competition. I remember having a guy from Uganda, an ex-boy from Uganda, and he was like a dark-skinned black man. And I remember him saying, "Oh, your skin's so light." Now, I didn't click straight away what he was going on about until he went, "But if you were in Africa, your skin would be darker." And I went, "What? Do you know what I mean?" Because I thought, we're all black anyway.
Mm.
Just because I'm lighter than you, if the racist white people come, they're gonna kill us all the same. They don't care what shade of black you come in.
Mm.
We're all just ends to them. Yeah.
Mm.
But what hurt me about that was that he was born and raised in Africa, and to
Mm.
think that a country like Uganda, um, that's the type of mentality that was in Uganda. And there's quite a few African men like that. Now I know they say in Nollywood, they don't want certain actresses. If you want to go, they don't want you. You've got to be red bone. They don't want the darker skinned black women because there's not enough red bone people in Nigeria as it is
Yeah.
for them to be able to discriminate to that extent. But that's what's happening now. They are discriminating,
Mm.
and it's just sad that the colonial legacy, they've done a real work on some Africans.
Well, many Africans, yeah, they've done a good work throughout Africa. And I think that's why these talks are important, but highlighting and having those open conversations. Because sometimes people get to a point where they're doing all this stuff, but they actually haven't had an open conversation of what's actually happened and why they're doing it. So when you highlight, they can see they're on the wrong end of history. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
they're on the bad side of history and they're contributing to the oppression that themselves and their family went through. And it just doesn't make any sense for you to quote unquote, use the enemy's tongue. You're speaking how the people who hate you speak about yourself. It doesn't make sense. But then many things don't make sense when you're dealing with a collectively inadequate group. And that's why I quote open by these are the voices and practices of a people who are at current collectively inadequate. That's why highlighting and having strategies of betterment is necessary so we can minimize these confusions that we shouldn't necessarily be going through.
Yeah, I definitely, and I feel um, like to the sisters that have, like what do they call it, the black man sphere that my American brother calls it, um, like the gender war that's going on between black men and black women online and in real life and stuff like that. I was just saying to the black women that like go with the black men that support you as a black woman and want to uplift you. Stay away from the black men that are trying to put you down.
Yes.
Um, and I think that sometimes people go looking for love in the wrong places. But also, I think I finally saw that film Black Panther, and because I've never saw that, and me and my boyfriend were watching it, and it was just nice to see, black people like a superhero movie. But one thing I think also that is an issue is the phenotypes in Africa that in and I mean the black phenotypes that like in that movie I didn't see the Somalian sort of phenotype in that movie.
Mm.
It was the stereotypical what they call the true Negro Bantu look, and I think that causes issues in the black community as well, where a certain phenotype is seen as the true way to be. This is the purest black person, and everybody else is mixed, which is not actually true. But I think that's an issue. I know, like I think we've had that conversation. When we had that conversation apart, and um, when we talk about red bone people, and a lot of black people don't realize that in Africa they are black people who are naturally red bone and they're not mixed. They're all over Africa. But we don't control the media. The black genetics is the most diverse on the planet, but they don't like. They only want to show you one look, and then they will say the reason why the rest of them look different is because they're mixed. And when they say they're mixed, they mean the white man.
Mm.
That's basically what they mean. They'll contribute everything
Yeah.
to the white man to pick him up.
Yeah, I mean the black experience. There's so much going on, and there's so much diversity. And you're right. Whenever you can represent black people, you want to try to be as diverse as you can. And that is and this image we have at the moment is showing you many different types of black people from different experiences, different parts of the world, different phenotypes. You know, different bone structures, hair textures, all the rest of it. Um, but you're right. You're right. But a better representation is always good. And I guess that and this show will be that show. So, hopefully we can get people from different walks of life to tell their opinion. And you have brought up this concept of colorism. So I probably would like to cover this again
Yeah.
in a show. Maybe it might be more valuable to do it just for women. Maybe I invite 6 or so women on to tell their experience and the solutions for such challenges. I don't know yet, but I definitely, if you're interested, definitely invite you back on for that if you would like.
Yeah, definitely. But I think also I like to hear the men's because what I find is men don't like. But I think it's just probably men. Men don't like to talk about colorism,
Right.
And I think when I look at the wars and the gender wars, when I go on the American channels,
Mm.
there are certain American channels that you can have good conversations on, but um, I think I don't. I think it's a man's sense of pride. I think a lot of black men don't want to admit that there's colorism.
Mm.
They're really like that's what I've noticed because a lot of things get blamed on black women. Everything,
Right.
you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
know, everything's down to the black woman. Do you know what I mean? But you can see that there's colorism because the amount of black, like you said, the amount of black men that are famous and they've got white partners. Or
Mm.
even if I don't know if you've seen Oprah, have you seen Oprah Winfrey's Black Love Service?
I haven't. What's that about?
Yeah, she on her own channel. She's got her own channel, which is her YouTube channel, and she has this Black Love Service. So I go there looking because I like to hear about Black love. Get tips and stuff. And then when the first thing you notice is the red bone lady with the dark skinned black man, and it all the time. You,
Mm.
you rarely get people that are even my color, like two people my color, or dark. Like you wouldn't get like a dark skinned black woman with a red bone guy. And it's like I saw in the comment section people starting to complain. I'm just saying that this black hole, black love thing is just colorist. And
Mm.
I definitely think like even like some like like Oprah Winfrey, she's got her partner is
Mm.
like like your color, yeah,
Mm.
but you don't even get that on her Black Love Service. So whoever produces that show and picks the black couples, they must be really colorist because it's just not normal.
Mm.
There's plenty of couples in different hues, but all you ever see is a red bone lady with a
Mm.
dark skinned black man, and that's it. And that's the majority of it.
I have heard about that combination where you have like a light skin, a very light complected black lady with a
Yeah,
very dark complected black man, but you don't see the vice versa. You don't see the mixture of the two, and I think more so maybe in lead roles and these kind of stuff that where it might become more pragmatic, where you almost have like a fixed set, you know, not stereotype, not stereotype, but stock imagery of stock kind of way of shooting
yeah,
things where if you have a black woman, she's very light. If you have a black partner, he's very dark and stuff.
yeah.
And I guess watching that and trying to make sure that we add diversity amongst that is quite important.
Yeah, I'm just think it's such a pity because it's nice to hear the black couples, and I just think I thought you would think Oprah would know better, but I suppose Oprah's a little bit. Oprah's like sort of she works for the white masses, doesn't she? Like even the films that she backs just make black people look so dysfunctional and terrible. Even though how they shout about Oprah being the black millionaire and a black billionaire. But if you
Mm.
look at the projects that she backs in the films, they make black people look terrible.
Well, that's another issue we're gonna bring up in the future as well, like the type of content that comes out, and I guess it's also a balancing act. Like by all means, you could have the difference between, say, a European industry and with black people in it is you could have a show where every European in one show is negative and dysfunctional, but because there's other shows coming out at a high rate,
Mm.
you're not contributing to the mental state that Europeans behave this way all the time. I think if you only show a small amount of black, completely casted media, and the majority of the five, let's say you have five and four of them are negative, well then that's not a good balance stack. So you might be helping perpetuate that black people might be dysfunctional, and that might be problematic.
Yeah, this is it. It's like, that's how I started watching Ghanaian, Nigerian, and Ethiopian movies because just the racial, even the race, something that was meant to be about black love, and then you just want to show us the same stereotype and the psychological damage that they're doing because
Mm.
like Americans, they've got that brown paper bag test, aren't there? And it's
Mm.
that if the woman is light or it's, tall, dark, and handsome, and the Snow White, this is all this is all coming from white supremacy that
Mhm.
the woman has to be fair because she's Snow White and Prince Charming, tall, dark, and handsome. This is the little things that the games that they're playing,
Mm.
and
No, I hear that. Yeah.
so I really hope that black people um we really need more filmmakers. We need people who want to be in the media, art.
Well, but here's what it is, Sister Bay, and this is what I was trying to bring to you earlier with your mum telling you stuff. Is if people don't are not aware or they don't articulate change. So, for example, we could fund 10 black directors to go through direction schools, but if you don't give them a mission that we're paying for you to get through all these courses, so that when you get your time to actually make content, it's
Mm,
of a balanced or of a constructive nature when representing black people. If we're not telling them that, then they might just get swept up in what's going on, and they then contribute to the problem because they haven't actually been directed. You know, and I
mm.
think it's like Bill Cosby. They said that all his shows had to be thoroughly reviewed to make sure that no stereotypes were coming through that might marginalize black people. And we know it would because even though the mainstream have demonized him today,
Mm.
uh, at that time when he was in his show, they called him, I think, American's Dad, something like that. So for a black man to be called American's Dad must mean that his show must be really beloved and the character that he portrayed in there. So
Can
this
I
is
ask you
yeah,
now? It's interesting that you've built up Bill Cosby, and so
yeah,
because I used to love the Cosby Show, it was a really nice show, wasn't it?
yeah.
Positive. Do you think he's guilty?
Well, I mean, it's so hard for me to say without having him make a speech or seeing the evidence. But I can
Mm,
say that if anyone practices mistreating women, rape, and so forth, then I can't support them. And I can't support that act. So if he is guilty, then he will have to make amends of the horrible things he's done.
mm,
I don't know the evidence, yes or no. So that's why I stand on mistreating women in that kind of way. But I'm aware that even within mistreatment, there's mistreatment. So when you observe how he was treated as a person who's accused of abusing women versus other non-black people who were abused, and you could put R. Kelly in the same kind of category as well. There seems to be a stronger force to get him to be punished than say non-black people, and
yeah,
that's what I've observed.
yeah. I think anybody who's analytical, who has an analytical mind, and fair, can see that. I think, but even though another thing I would say though, even in terms of Harvey Weinstein, have you noticed that they always wait until the end of their career?
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed, that a good percentage of these men that go around who allegedly abuse women, they wait until the end of your career to bring you down.
Mm.
And then you think, well, what's going? That's why I think. That's why when they do the Me Too movement, that's why I think to myself, you're not genuine. You're not genuine because why would you wait until this Harvey's like in his 60s? Bill Cosby in his 70s. You know what I mean? Why would and this? What's that guy? The white man that was into kids and teenagers. The one that dropped dead. That was suicide. Ep-
Okay.
Epstein. Jeffrey
Oh, yeah.
Epstein.
Oh, the one who killed himself. Oh, well, yeah, he killed himself. Yeah, yeah, that one.
Yeah. This
So,
they wait until he's in his 60s. That's why for me, I feel like they're not even genuine about sexual harassment and abusing children because I just think why do you keep on waiting until they're really old? Because especially that Jeffrey Epstein, the woman reported him 25 years before to the FBI.
well, this brings us to the another topic that hopefully we'll be covering in the future is once you've established black love or even just black families, how do you protect black women from that experience? Like how from being abused when they go for work or when they go to act or what it might be like. What are we doing as a community to make sure that men can't do this and abuse power in this kind of way? So that's something that we will have to definitely cover, like how to protect our children from predatory behaviors.
I think
Um,
I think also, Raven, let's not forget the black men that have been abused, like, with that African Bambada who was
yeah,
accused of, raping boys, teenage boys.
yeah,
And I think he was accused in Brazil as well.
yeah. For those who don't know, the African Bambaataa, the producer slash rapper maybe from the past, who's quite influential back in the 70s. He was known for a lot of good works in the sense of stopping gang wars and helping the poor and this kind of stuff. But it's been alleged that he also was intimate and sleeping with, teenage boys around the same time. And a lot of those boys have come forward now to try to, seek justice and stuff. And he hasn't really, he's kind of disappeared in this concept. But yeah, once again, any kind of mistreatment going on, abuse going on, you can never support the 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 abuser. You always have to support the abused, and we have to find ways to make sure that our children are not alone with anyone really. So
Yeah,
but then once again, when you start breaking down how these situations happen, a lot of these guys that's reported they weren't actually they came from broken homes or they never had parental figures or stuff like that, or they were raised by the streets, so they were easily to be led into one way and stuff like that. So this is what I'm saying about a collective inadequate group, worldwide, where there's so many challenges from interactions with other people groups, and why we have to articulate it so we can find open solutions to these problems. If that makes sense.
yeah.
That's it. That's just about it.
Also about
Mm.
speaking to my family in
Right,
Nigeria, and what they're saying is now is at 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning, lockdown, they're not allowed out.
right. Yeah,
Um, yeah, so like in terms of black love and betterment, in terms of because like in Africa, it's very harsh the way they, the black governments run things, and it's just like how do we create black love when we're mistreating each other?
yes. This is what, and some people then, they use this mistreatment to justify leaving community or community responsibilities and looking elsewhere. I think what I tend to do is sometimes we have to look at what is at the root of a lot of mistreatment. So, for example, let's use the partner picking scenario, right?
Yeah,
If you had a black woman and she said, "Oh well, I met this European guy and he's well educated, he's got a nice job, he's in a nice community, he's he's got all these things going for him," and then next to me I see a black individual, he has nothing, he's not educated, he's just did some kind of crime, or it might be, and I would say, well, you've got to look at the history of the two people groups, right? As in, like, if you find yourselves in London and that guy's of Caribbean descent or whatever, where he has a history and there was a time where his people were oppressed and things were taken from him and given to another group, and that group hasn't been allowed to develop themselves and have certain systems where they can even be ignorant of the past and ignorant of what other people have gone through because of the past, and those two groups are growing in isolation, whatever. Now, when we meet, you're seeing the outcome of that legacy. So even though you might see paradise in this person of European descent, there's a history there that you should be aware of before you make your grounding statement of this European individual is obviously better than the African, or the white is better than the black for these reasons, because there's a history, and if you don't know the history, you'll probably stumble and repeat it in some way. So that's that's why I always try to let people remember when it comes to that kind of thinking, and observing communities that's fallen by the wayside and stuff. Yeah, and big up IC3. He's just coming to the comments. Um,
Can I
yeah,
ask you what you
go ahead.
think of Meghan Markle? Would do you feel like a mixed race Duchess like Meghan, that's obviously her partner is white? Do you feel like she will improve race relations for Black people in Britain? Because I know
No,
she's on Black History Month, yeah, and
um,
experience in the UK recently.
I don't think so. I think I could be wrong with the history, but hasn't her and husband haven't they kind of stepped down in their position? Am I wrong? Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, yeah, they sort of ran off. Like,
Right.
do you think she ran off because of racism in Britain?
Yes, I think if your life is made easy, if your life is made easy, you don't run. Clearly, there's a lot going on, and clearly, she was affected. There's a lot like the royals are very good at covering up certain things, and it's even now with the Epstein and his friend, whatever it might be, that guy still protected the son. I've got his name, Prince something.
Oh, Prince
Um,
Andrew.
yeah, so they're very good at covering up, but they have a history of doing it. But I think if you're saying this is the first black woman, to be entered in this kind of household, isn't
Mm,
that a good thing? Well, I'm saying, well, I've never seen a royal run away from the royal family before at this rate. I've never seen people give up privileges, because essentially being a royal means you have a collection of privileges, and all you have to do is the certain duties that allows you to be a royal, right? Well, they've forsaken those, and they've gone to another place. So I can't see her. I think one of the challenges black people go through collectively as well is we are very happy with symbolic victories, and I think when you get used to not getting anything tangible, you then fantasize about symbolic concepts. So seeing someone doing good who's black becomes very important. And that is important to see that success. But
mm,
when you put all your eggs in that basket, and then you kind of make yourself inadequate, because you're not actually trying to get more tangible things. You're more geared towards seeing stuff like, oh look, a black woman's a role, but black people won't necessarily benefit from that union apart from symbolic visuals at this present time, from what I've seen.
yeah, yeah. Just, what do you think of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protest, and because I noticed I was like walking past and I saw Sainsbury's like Black History Month, and I was like, they've got to stick up for Black History Month. I was like, whoa, that didn't happen before. Um,
Yeah. So it's always good when you see talking points and people talking, and the concept of saying Black Lives Matter and having something chant, I think is valuable, and it gives us, like, when in the future when you Wikipedia the past, you have images to show, and slogans to show that mistreatment was consistent even this time and the time before, and how we express ourselves was by sharing the slogan. I don't know much about the organizations. I don't know much about what they're trying to achieve, so I can't speak on them. I've read some of their manifestos and some of their information on their website, and I did hear them that they're against the nuclear family, and I don't know necessarily what that means. What I would say is I believe in the nuclear family as a template for black people, meaning a husband and wife and children. And I think that's valuable. And I think I'll push that as a template. Once you're aware of that template, if you choose to ignore it, that's your freedoms. But to just not have that template is kind of what I see black people doing now, and that is not beneficial. So, in regards to Black Lives Matter and the manifesto, from a political standpoint, I'm not correlating much with that kind of ideology. I am correlating with the concept of highlighting mistreatment of black people and the slogan "Black Lives Matter." And
yeah,
that's black people.
You know, I think it is like when people say that Black Lives Matter are against the nuclear family. The issue with Black Lives Matter is it was created by three black women, and two of them are lesbians.
Was it not all three of them?
No, no, it's not all three. It's
Oh,
two of them. But
right.
the thing is, if two of them are lesbians, of course they're going to talk about, being gay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that people are a little bit naive to think that you can create a worldwide movement like Black Lives Matter and expect those black women not to talk about the struggle of being a black lesbian.
Mm.
But I think Black Lives Matter is a good because it's made um, white people talk about the experience of black people and the mistreatment. Um, but the only thing I think sometimes when people say Black Lives Matter is against nuclear family, I think some of that because I hear it mainly from black men, and I think some black men don't understand that you should be grateful that these black lesbians are even talking about black men being killed because they're not even into men because
I agree. I
they
agree with
are.
that. Yeah, I agree with that concept in that regards. But I think what I'm referring to is, if you're a lesbian, that's another topic, and or gay, that's not something that we'll be tackling in the future and stuff. But I think it's more so on their website they say they are against the nuclear family. So they're not saying that we have a choice in what we want to do. They're saying we as Black Lives Matter representatives are against the concept of a nuclear traditional family. So they'll have to articulate what that means and how breaking down that nuclear family benefits Black people collectively. If they can demonstrate that, then we can support it.
But isn't that's an interesting thing because if it isn't the nuclear family, isn't African family not a nuclear family anyway? Traditional African families don't consider cousins, for example. My cousins call me sister
Yeah,
because in African culture they don't have a distinction
yeah,
between cousins and sisters. So that nuclear family, from what I know, is a Western concept of mum, dad, and kids, and that's it.
right. Well, if it's articulate like that, then there's a conversation to be had. But the way it's being pushed forward is the
Yeah.
concept of man, woman, and child, and providing in the household to make sure man, woman, and child are flourish and have a life and this kind of stuff, right? So that's that's how it's been pushed forward. Um, but but once again, this is will be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah.
But definitely. There is a value in what they've done, and anytime Black people come together to do anything constructive, I support it. And I tend to not necessarily focus on things that I don't synchronize in or disagree with because there's so much other constructive things that's going on, and the conversation is being had, like you mentioned, and this is a conversation that wasn't made, and these conversations being had allow certain things to actually go forward without objection. And one example might be you had certain like campaigns where they tried to promote black businesses, right? You
Yes.
know, and before when you try to do that, it might be much more challenging. People will accuse you of certain things, but then people are identifying that yes, you want the people to thrive. You might want to give them a better economic chance by highlighting their business opportunities and stuff. So, yeah, in that regards, yeah, I definitely support. I support the Black Lives Matter concept on those grounds. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because even just the title of Black Love, obviously they are relationships that are not mainstream, like two women together, two men together in the black community that do exist. So even that conversation, maybe you could invite like I don't know some lesbians or gay people. I mean, just to have that conversation, Raven, because
No, it's funny you should mention that because that's one of the areas that many black media's try to struggle with, and
yeah,
it's a conversation I am going to have at some point where talking to the black same gender loving community to just to find out certain things and try to find solutions to challenges. But as you said that, we're joined by IC3 now. Sister Bay, is it okay if I add IC3 for the last?
yeah, that's fine. That's
All
fine.
right, so brother IC3, we're going to add you because you've clicked on the link. So is this brother IC3?
Uh, no, it's not good evening, is it? It's good morning.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I just thought I just switched on, saw that you was online, so I thought, yeah, let me listen in on
definitely.
what's your discussion. I'm sure it'd be worthwhile discussion. So I like to
So
listen. Yeah.
what we were talking about before you joined, brother, was can black love contribute to black betterment? So is there a value in black people loving black people, and will that contribute to black people doing better collectively if we were to marry each other and take news of each other? That was the question out there that Sister Bay put forward.
All right. Okay. Wow. That's quite a serious question, quite a heavy question there.
It is.
Um, yeah. You want me to my uh, answer to that, or you
No, of
still
course.
talking?
You're a guest here, and we always invite people to give their 10 pence piece. So, what's your opinions on black people picking black people for partners, and can that lead to betterment? Go ahead.
Yes, I think it can lead to betterment, definitely. But the issue of love is the tricky part, because yes, I believe family values, um, love in the family is a strong, powerful for building the community. But there's a twist in that. In order to overcome the system of white supremacy, the kind of opposite is true. So it's kind of a duality in that. A lot of people think, well, okay, if you love your family and so on, then you just got to love everybody, and they tend to think of that, interpret that as meaning having lots of friends, lots of friends, and they interpret friendship as a functional, loving way to neutralize white supremacy and get black people out of the situation they're in. Whilst I believe actually dealing with the problem of white supremacy is actually almost like a job. It's almost like a mission. It's almost like a military campaign. And those who are operating effectively in the military or in high stress situations, they stick to code. Sometimes when people are building something or working on a big project, they work to the manual and to the code. So they might not actually like the person that they're working with or their co-workers, but it's you're not there to make friends. It's nice if you do make friends on the job, but that's not the job. You see,
Yes.
so there's a strange mix between these two worlds: love, as in constructing and holding together a family, and so on. But then there's the fight, and if you just have the idea that just having lots of friends is a community and is a functional community, no, I disagree with that. I think you get sloppiness, well, in my experience anyway, sloppiness, slackness, all kinds of stuff, nonsense, and you can't get things done.
Right.
Because they're using that friendship frame of mind on the mission. That's my opinion.
Right. So just to identify what you're saying, what you're saying is unions and stuff is cool, but if people don't have a codified way of acting, then nothing will be achieved. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's funny because
it's cold. Hard codified operation.
Before you joined, I was talking to Sister Bay about a similar thing, as in like she told us that her mother would tell her like, when you pick a partner, pick this kind of partner, not this kind of partner, and it was very direct, very like, here's the kind of like goal, right? So I think I was further adding to that and maybe correct with the code concept that yes, having actual mission statements, having ways of operating, having ways to do things might be a even better way of trying to achieve betterment, because you actually are pinpointing what to do and how to do it, rather than hoping things just fall into place.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people think, oh, if we're just loving, why can't we just get along? Just, love, brother, sister, and they don't last very long. Those operations, and then anything goes wrong. Say, oh look, just don't take it too seriously. You're taking things too seriously. Just chill out, man. So,
I think
yeah.
you know what you mentioned a really good point in terms of what is the definition of love. I think that's what you're alluding to, in the sense of, because like for me, I see mating and procreating as political. Who I procreate with and who I be with, it's a political thing.
Oh,
And
very interesting.
yeah, I see it as a political. I don't know how. I think it's just like Raven said in terms of your partner is your business partner. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I don't believe in. I think you can grow to love someone. I think this love, the Western concept of love is wishy-washy. It's kind of lust, and before you know it, they fall out of love, and then
That's it. Everything
you know,
else goes down. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I think more of the concept of the African way of love is more of a, can they provide for you? Do you have the respect? Are they a good person? It's that's what they call love. You know what I mean? It's not that feeling. I think maybe that's what you're alluding to.
Yes, I think. Yeah, I think that's it really, because all throughout history, it always seems to be like that. Or even in the corridors of power. In the corridors of power, they're married for serious issues. Like whole land masses, or this people marry that queen because they want to do. It's all political, it seems. And it's like love is just like, oh, if it comes, it's okay. That would be nice. Yeah, but really serious. It's hard
And it was
to
a way of
that.
stopping wars as well, wasn't it? It's a way
Yeah,
of.
that's right. Yeah.
So, what Brother IC3 has joined the debate, the more of the conversation that Sister Bates pushed forward. It was a Black Love topic, and within this last segment we're going through now, I've pushed a link in the group. So anyone who got questions or wants to join in, by all means, jump in and give you a 10 pence piece on, can Black Love better the community? Can we gain betterment from Black unions? IC3 has pushed forward that, regardless of whatever you come together without a code, it might not go anywhere. So he's placed a high emphasis on a code of conduct and a way to operate. So that's what, and another thing we tackled as well was when Black people end up picking, say, for example, white people for partners. I think we were given some analogies that some people believe in. Some people believe that if you in a system under white supremacy, if we operate under that system, therefore meaning the Europeans or the white people, they might be seen as the supervisors, while the Black people might be seen as the people imprisoned under that system. Therefore meaning any kind of relationship is inappropriate. I've heard that being pushed forward before.
Yeah, Neely Fuller says that.
Neely Fuller, the brother, he's definitely pushed that kind of concept that many people run with. So that's an interesting thing.
Did you say run with or run away from?
Well, some run to it, some run away from it, don't they?
Yeah.
One thing I've put forward is, if we have identified a way of operating that works better for Black people collectively, even if we don't choose to do it, what might be not in our best interest is to promote that doesn't work. So we have a template way of doing things that we know works very efficiently, but if you find yourself not actually practicing it, try not to promote it over what does work, because then you're causing confusion. You see? Yeah. And I guess the analogy of that is like, it's agreed upon from a certain extent that smoking is bad for your lungs, right? Mm-hmm. But I might want to smoke. Yeah. So I have to say that that's my choice, but I shouldn't promote smoking as healthy, because it's been proven that it's not, even though I'm doing it. And that's where some of the Black people challenge when it comes to this picking a partner or picking a choice in life, where they feel that because they've done something, that has to be the thing that everyone should do, and it
Exactly.
validates their insecurities in making that choice, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, this is what we're trying to articulate today, as in you have the power of choice, to an extent in this life. But when you're making that choice, if it isn't a collective betterment, it might not be worth promoting as such, because that would be inaccurate and you're causing confusion.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So,
But,
the standards, having standards and codes, it means that everybody understands what the standards are and what the codes are.
Yeah.
But even if your life doesn't come up to the codes, you'll still promote the codes. Just like the people that they have the Quran, they say, yeah, Quran is a book of God, or they have the Bible, but they'll say, oh, I'm not as good a Christian as I should be. But yes, the Bible is the word of God. See, so that's their code.
Good analogy there. Very good analogy about you have a lifestyle that you're pushing forward, and if you fall short of that lifestyle, you don't then change your lifestyle. You just let people know you fall short of it, but the lifestyle still works for a collective.
Yes. That's right. That's right. And that's where how power works. That's how because if you have a military group, and they're in an action, they say, look, your target for today is that you've got to get to that point. So we want as many of you to get to that point and take out that point there. It's about 3 miles away, and so on. And we expect so and so problems and mines and so on. But they have an objective. They've got to hit that point and hold that hill or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when they leave out the camp, they're heading to hold that hill. And once they've got the hill, that's the objective. And then they wait there, hold position until they receive further commands. They might have to go home, or or go further. It's the same thing. Are you building a ship? If you're building a ship or building a plane, right? You're here. You've got your tools. You've got your overalls, and you have your skills. You have the manual, and the object. The reason you're being paid is because you've got to build that plane. That's the plane you're working on,
right?
Or that's a ship. So yeah.
Brother IC3, just to let you know, the format of the show basically is every week we invite a minimum of 2 people at first. It might be more in the future, but right now it's 2 people. And each person has their own kind of like topic they want to talk about.
Okay.
To do with Black Betterment. And then they give like a 10-minute or 5-minute or whatever spiel. And then we have like a discussion. And then at the end, we invite everyone on to have maybe a bigger discussion. And that's why you've been invited on. This is
right.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So by all means.
Space. This
is better space. But the reason I'm telling you this now is because you're clearly someone with many ideas. And you're always welcome to have your own segment in the future where you dictate the topic.
Okay. So that's interesting format.
If you would like, if there's it has to correlate with Betterment, Black Betterment.
Yeah.
Right. How to achieve it, or how it's not being achieved, and so forth. So if you like, I think I follow you on Instagram, right? Well, you probably don't know. I don't know, but are you on Instagram? Am I wrong?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram. Yeah.
Well, we can message each other on there, and if you want, we can pick a if you want in the future for you to actually jump on and have your own segment.
Yeah.
And also in the future times you can jump on in any one segment anyway to add to the conclusion debate.
Yeah.
But at this point, because it's now 20 past 12, I'm going to probably wrap up the show. So, Sister Bay, is there anything you'd like to end on?
I would like to ask, IC3, because he's the black. I can see it says black banking for reparations. I think money is really important for Black love. So how do you think black banking could help Black love, IC3?
Well, I think you almost answered it straight away in what you were saying there. That usually people, in my experience anyway, people say, "Oh, these people split up because financial issues." It seems to be one of the major causes of failure in relationships, whether male or female. Male, as in it's your mate, and can you lend me £50? And that's almost like a frightening thing. Can you lend me £50? And if that person doesn't pay back the £50 when they promise to, then you think, oh, is that person thinking that I'm an idiot? Or, and a lot of relationships and friendships break down over small loans.
Yes, that's true.
In my experience, I'm just speaking. I don't know how you all see it, but over the years, it's something, it's deadly. It's deadly.
Yeah,
Just the way it's not the amount. I mean, it could be, the amount's significant, but sometimes it's just the attitude and the behavior.
it's true. It's true. That's true. That.
Yes.
I don't think sending money back home to the Caribbean or Africa seems to cause a lot of problems. People sending money for building houses that the relatives never
That's
laid
right. Oh man, so many stories. When I was younger, I used to hear all the big people talking like that. Said all the big people. That was the main concern. We send money back home, and someone run off with the money, or someone spent. Yeah. All the big people was talking like that. As I grew up, I started to hear the same, kind of thing. So money is a very serious issue. And when it comes to relationships, and then there's the deeper aspect of what money is itself, and I suppose that we move into the metaphysical. It's a level where a lot of people don't really discuss, because if I just, because Rat Raymond's going to close up this stream for now, but just a thought I'd like to leave session with is that I'm saying the poison is actually in the currency. The money itself is poisonous, but the antidote to the poison is where? In the poison.
Interesting.
I'll leave you there.
Well, like I said, bro, IC3, you're always welcome to actually pick your own topic and expand on these ideas. And
yeah.
And you're always welcome. Yeah. And so, if everyone, Sister Betty, if that's your last thing, I'll just like to say thank you for like I said, this is the longest show we've had. That means clearly we've had things to talk about. And the people have been listening, and they seem to be going on for your saying, hence why we haven't really got much back of like, oh, what does that mean? So that's good. So hopefully you guys will come back soon, and I'll keep you guys updated. But thank you, Sister Betty, and thank you, IC3. And I guess we're gonna quit there. Is that everything good then? Any last words? Is that cool?
Yeah. Can I just say thank you to IC3? Definitely, I would like to see IC3 and you do a show on that concept that he explained. It seemed quite deep. But also, Raven, you put up 4D values. Could you explain what this is? Because I've never come across this before.
Okay, yeah. So what I've done is I've come up with 4 values that if Black people, when interacting with each other, try to uphold, it will minimize anxiety. That's the hope. So discipline, dedication, discernment, and dignity. And every Black Betterment show I start, I try to highlight that when we interact with each other, we can show these 4D values. If we can try to implement them, then we will minimize confusion and anxiety and pain when we're trying to find solutions for Black people. And I always start the show with that, and I always end with it just to let people know. But I'm getting a lot of good convos in the group so far. A lot of people have said good convo, and hopefully those guys can come back. And by all means, you guys, you're willing to join those conversations in the future, or to try to request certain topics for us to cover, so we can go and find people to speak on them. But for now, you guys, Sister Bay has been fantastic, and IC3 has been the first person to jump on the link, so you've made history there. So hopefully, I'll speak to you guys, you on Instagram, IC3, and Betty will speak again in a bit, right?
Can you go Instagram there so I can follow you? I didn't know you had an Instagram.
Are you okay for my Instagram, IC3? Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, anybody can link up on Instagram there.
Could you pull it in the?
I'm Raven's Instagram as well.
Yes, let me. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'll put mine as well. So my Instagram is here, rap Raven. So everyone add me, and that when I'm promoting, I put that so at Rap Raven. But also anything you give me, Sister Bay, I'm gonna put it in the form. So after email me stuff you want to promote, and I put that in the info. So when people click on the info, they can find like your page, your Black Girl Problems new page and stuff like that. And I see free. I'll also promote the stuff you want to do as long as you give me the direct links, and I'll put it in the groups.
You know what?
Yeah,
I think
brilliant. Yeah.
really interesting, because IC3 is the money man. That coronavirus. If you go to the World Economic Forum, which is a meeting place for the elites, they are using coronavirus as a way to reset the world economy. So I'd be interested to hear what IC3 thinks of this.
Oh yes, yeah. I suspect that is what's really taking place. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. For quite a number of sources. But anyway, I don't want to keep Raven, but we've got lots to talk about. I like the format actually. I think this everybody has their style of running conversations, and if your style or your format's not good, then people just get into all kinds of arguments, all kinds of nonsense and bitching and so on. But if you're setting up a style, a format. I like your format. It's a bit like the BBC. We know when they say they invite a guest on and the desert island discs or something like that, and the conversation is based around maybe 2 or 3 people, and then it expands out. Yeah, it's very good. I like this. I like the format. That's good. Okay.
Well, like I said, it's a first come first serve concept. So whoever contacts me is more likely to get their topic on the next week. So if you want this. I've just messaged you now on Instagram so we can talk. And Sister Betty's friend might come next week as well. So if you want, you might be able to fill in that as well and have you two as guests. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah. But guys, you've been fantastic, and we'll do it again. Thank you, Sister Betty. Thank you, IC3, and we'll do it again. You have a good time.
Then. Take care.
Yeah. Bye everyone in the forum. See ya.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.